Hello and welcome to Season 3 of Tots Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Ben Gardner. Guys, thank you so much for listening and all of your support. After last season, I know I've got some big shoes to fill. I've got a lot to top. We had an astronaut. I came out about having Tourette's. We had so many different incredible guests, and they all shared their super interesting stories. That's going to be a lot to top for this season, but I think we're going to do it. And the best way that I know how to do that is to have really, really awesome guests on. And we're going to start out strong. We're going to have Kurt Lewis right here, right now, Secret Service agent. And he's going to tell me more about his experience being a Secret Service agent. But before we get to that, I just want to say again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for supporting me and allowing me to do what I love to do, which is this, podcasting. So, guys, without further ado, I am going to... Older Ben, in the past, is going to intro Kurt, and we're going to get right into it. Just a little disclaimer. The reason why some of the events in this podcast are going to seem a little bit off is because we filmed this 5 months ago. We had a different president and different representatives, and different things were happening, and there were different threats going on. The world was a very different place 5 months ago than it is right now. So just keep that in mind as you listen. Events have changed. Facts have changed. Everything has gotten all jumbled up. So if something seems a little weird, or we're talking about something and you're like, what are they talking about? 5 months ago. We had to go through an approval process with the Secret Service. I'm really glad that they have that to make sure that we don't leak any information that's not supposed to be out there. But that is why it's delayed. And then by the time we were ready to post, it was already the end of season 2. Now we're here in season 3. We're going to start it off strong. Older Ben, in the past, take it away. Hello and welcome to another episode of Tots. I'm your host, Ben Gardner. Today on the show, we have Kurt Lewis with us. He is a Secret Service agent. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ben. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, I'm a special agent with the United States Secret Service. Currently, I'm assigned to the Special Operations Division, and my title is Assistant Special Agent in Charge, and my responsibilities are the counter-assault team. Basically, I'm in charge of the counter-assault team.
And what does the counter-assault team do? Like, what are they sent out on?
The counter-assault team is responsible for the physical protection of the President of the United States and sometimes the Vice President of the United States and others, depends on what the task is. So basically, they're the tactical team that's assigned to the President.
Cool. And so how did your career with the Secret Service start?
Well, I was a police officer in Charleston, South Carolina, and I worked for the Charleston County Sheriff's Office. And I worked a couple of cases with some Secret Service agents. And after talking to them, I just decided that was what I wanted to do. They were just really exceptional individuals. One happened to be one of the first agents on the counter-assault team, which
really?
Just happens to be where I'm at now.
Sure.
And they talked about traveling the world, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to travel the world. I want to see everything that I can. I was a history major in college, and it just sparked my interest. And being in law enforcement, I had a background. I was in the Marine Corps for a while, and it was just something that sounded really cool to me. And the investigations that they were doing at the time was some bank fraud stuff. Really, it sounded pretty cool, and I got to do some of the investigations with them. And I just decided that's what I wanted to do. And literally, I have been all around the world, so it's been a great career.
That's awesome. Do you know how many countries that you've actually visited?
I haven't added them all up, but it's been a lot. I haven't been to Australia, but I've been to New Zealand.
So that's on the bucket list then?
Yeah. Although if I was going that far, I might want to go back to New Zealand, because New Zealand is gorgeous.
Really?
It is it's beautiful. I mean, have you ever seen Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Of course you have, right? We landed in Christchurch, which is on the coast. Mm-hmm. And they had to download the cars from the planes and put them onto smaller planes, C-130s. And they flew them up into the mountains. And so, and we were going to Queenstown, which is where they do all the X Games and all that stuff way back in the day.
Yeah.
And so they flew all of the cars up there, but they didn't have room for us. So after flying 32 hours, we got another 8-hour bus trip all the way through up into the mountains. So we got
Winding
8 hours
roads
of
and-
driving through and just seeing just some phenomenal scenery. It was outstanding. One of the best trips I've ever done. Got the bungee jump when I was there. It just
That's
was.
pretty cool.
It was really. It was just a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, anyway, getting back to your question, I haven't added them all up. I've been to 49 states.
Okay.
So I'm missing North Dakota.
It
So-
doesn't exist though, so you're fine.
So we'll see what happens. Hopefully I can check that box soon.
Yeah. I think I've met one person from North Dakota. And it was a weird interaction too, because I was at school and this guy just came up to me and struck up a conversation like no one does anymore. And we were just talking and he was like, "Where are you from?" And I was like, "Annapolis, Maryland." I was like, "Where are you from?" He's like, "North Dakota." It's like, okay. And like the conversation ended like very quickly after that. So
Right.
I don't think North Dakota's real.
Well, I think they have a lot of good pheasant hunting, and I think there's a lot of fracking, and that's about all that I know about North Dakota,
That's-
unfortunately.
yeah.
So,
I think probably all the people that like say they're from North Dakota probably just live in like South Dakota and they just like drive over to pheasant hunt and frack. So you've been a lot of really, really cool places in your career.
Right.
What do you think is the coolest place that you've been or the coolest thing that you've done?
the coolest thing that I've done, or the coolest places that I've been? I think those are two really separate questions.
All right, we can separate them.
So I think the coolest place that I've been, like I said, going to New Zealand was, it was just gorgeous. I mean,
Yeah.
I just really had a good time. I lived in Germany, Frankfurt, Germany for 4 years, so I was able to travel extensively throughout Europe, and I absolutely loved it. I loved Germany. I loved Poland, the Czech Republic, the Slovak Republic, of all places. I spent a lot of time at Bratislava. I have some good friends there. Let's see, Georgia. I spent a lot of time in the Caucasus, Georgia, Azerbaijan, Armenia. It's very interesting. You have to. I had 2 different diplomatic passports when I was there.
Really?
You can't. Azerbaijan and Armenia are technically still at war, so traveling from
Okay.
Georgia, you couldn't necessarily go to one of the other countries with one of the other countries' stamps in there.
Sure.
So in other words, I had one that I went to Georgia and one in that Georgia and Azerbaijan, and then I
Right.
had another one that was solely used for Armenia.
That's really interesting. So
Yeah.
how long have they been at war, do you know?
I don't know.
It's one of
been
those wars that's
Yeah,
like
it's one of those
forever.
things. I think that they say that they're still at war. There's some border skirmishes every now and again. I haven't followed them lately, but it's just a very interesting dynamic.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so what's the coolest thing that you've ever done?
It's
you can talk about.
No, it's so hard to say because I think traveling throughout Europe was really cool. Meeting some exceptional people. I think being at the White House. I mean, every time I go to the White House, I'm still. I mean, I was there on the president's detail twice, and it just I still. It's not lost on me every time that I go there that this is where I'm at. I'm at the White House. You know, the history, especially walking all around there, everywhere in the White House. It's just that's really cool. I've ridden on Air Force One. A lot of people ask me about what that's like. I've ridden on Marine One, which is really cool. So not every Secret Service agent gets to do that.
Right.
Air Force Two. So I think it's just it's hard to say one thing that's the coolest thing.
Sure.
Because every day that I go to work, something's different, and I think that's what I love about my job so much is that you never know what's coming next.
Yeah. So you would say that's probably your favorite part about the job is that it's never like the same thing every day.
Absolutely. You know, I was on President Bush's detail. Did that for about 4 years. I was on the President Obama's detail. I did that for about 4 years, and it just, one day you're golfing in Hawaii, right, with the president, and then the next day, you could be in Des Moines, Iowa, or wherever, right? I mean, you just never know where you're going to go and what you're going to do.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's great.
And so we've known each other for a while. We've been
about 6
friends for
years
a
or
little
so,
bit.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a record of that somewhere. But I think another really cool thing that you've done is you were actually with the department that handles the beast.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
what was that like, and what was your job position?
So after I left the president's detail the second time, I was assigned as a supervisor over the two different sections, or three different sections. It's called the Special Services Division, and they were in charge of all the president's vehicles, basically, the armored fleet. We used to call it the Black Fleet because all the cars were black. But it's the armored, what you would call the Beast. It's actually a parade limousine, and all of the follow-ups, the cars that where the shift was when I was on the president's detail, I would ride in, and then all the operations section, I handled that. Everywhere the president goes, whether it's domestically or foreign, we take our own cars and we take our own mechanics. So I was in charge of all the mechanics, and let me tell you what, those guys are exceptional people. You think
I'm
it's
sure.
cool to be a NASCAR mechanic? Try being on one of the few mechanics on the president's on the Special Services Division that handle the president's vehicles. It's really cool. Those guys aren't just mechanics. Those guys are part of our emergency operations or our emergency action detail, if you will, not for the presidential motorcade.
Sure.
So they are armed officers as well as fantastic mechanics. They have a full scope polygraph just like I do. They're just outstanding individuals, and the stuff that they do, they keep those cars running everywhere, all over. Sometimes it's duct tape and a little little paint, but they keep things going. So it's an interesting job. And then the other thing that I did was the armor development. So as they developed the new armored Beast, if you will, the new one that's out there, I got to have a little input on that, which was
Nice.
very small, but it was just it was a lot of fun to see that develop from plans and go all the way through. And that's a whole classified project that working with the armor companies and GM, and got to drive it around the GM test track,
Really?
before it was, before they shipped it to us. So I mean, it was really it's a cool section that and I think we went out there. I took you and your family out there and got the tour
incredible.
of that. It's just it's really neat. The whole place is temperature controlled, so the armor is very fickle, if you will, and doesn't handle changes in temperature too much. So you go in there, it's a standard 70 degrees year round. It's just it's really cool.
It's a very cool
place
place
to work.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm like thinking back on that visit too. There were so many things like the temperature control that I thought were just like nice little touches, at least for, I didn't know it had anything to do with the armor, but it was just kind of nice because we walked in and it was like the middle of winter. I have like a sweater on and jeans, and I walk in and all the guys in there are like in shorts and like short sleeve shirts, and I'm like,
Well, I don't know about shorts. I think you might have been mistaken about that. But yes, they had short sleeve shirts and khakis, and yeah, I mean it's year round because of and it's all has to do with the armor, specifically the glass armor.
Yeah.
So
very cool. And I mean, too, like, I think the mechanics, that whole aspect is really interesting because you have people and you're like, okay, we're going to train you to be an officer. You need to have all of this specialized training, but then also you need to be able to keep these cars running no matter what. And no matter what country we're in, no matter what conditions, they have to run.
And then during the motorcades, wherever they are, they're a part of that EA package, an emergency action package, if you will.
Yeah.
So they have a specific role to play, and it's they're exceptional individuals, and it was great to have the chance to work with those guys. And I learned a lot, and that's where I started getting a little brave to work on my vehicles at home.
There you go, right?
I'm not any good at it, but it's fun.
So it's just safe to assume that all of your personal vehicles are like heavily armored. And
No. Those are very, very expensive vehicles.
yeah, maybe one day.
Yeah,
We'll see.
We'll see.
So your job is also a very high stress job, and most Secret Service positions, I would assume, are. How do you guys handle that stress, and how do you handle potential threats with, trying to be calm and to assess everything?
Well, a lot of it, I was going to say the first thing that is the important thing is training. But I think the most important thing, at least for me, is family. I've got a strong wife, and my kids are great, and it's just to have that support to do what I do is great. I mean, it's just that's the big part that helps. And the second part is training. I think ever since we began way back when 20 some years ago, it's been they've trained us for this specific job, and we go out there and we do a lot of advanced work, so we don't have to get into some of the emergency actions that we train for all the time.
Sure. So a lot of it is preventative to make sure that you don't have to get in that situation.
Absolutely. So it's we rely heavily on the advance. So wherever the president goes or vice president goes, we'll go out a week, 2 weeks earlier, depends on where it is, and we'll send an advance team. And we have, we could have 1 or 2 people just for the airport, 1 or 2 people just for individual site, and then you have a lead. You've got people from not just with the Secret Service, but you've got the White House Military Office, the White House Medical Unit, which falls under the White House Military Office, the White House Communications Agency, who handles all the radio communications. You'll have, if there's going to be a lift, you'll have the Marine Corps HMX there, Air Force One. They'll do an advance. So it's a huge package that goes out. And when we come to town, we really come to town. And it's, like I said, we're there for a week or 2 weeks before. And then, the car plane comes in, and I say car plane, it's like a C-17 or C-5 that brings our vehicles in, and other, guys like the counter assault team will come in, counter sniper team. Those guys will come in a few days before. Then they'll get briefings on everything that's going on, and then you'll have the actual visit. So all that stuff happens before. So it's not a last minute thing. So we do try to do a lot around prevention.
Sure.
So, and it seems to work for us. So
yeah, and I mean that training too. For those people who don't know, because I haven't put it out, but we've done a couple workouts together, and they're impossible. They're impossible.
No.
But you guys you're trained really well in a lot of different aspects, and I'm sure there's a mental part of that as well. But also physically, you guys have to be at the top of your game. Like, what kind of qualifications do you have to join the Secret Service and to be on like the counter assault team?
So we have, those are all just to get hired. It's a little bit different than the counter assault team. The counter assault teams, you have to meet the minimum standards for the physical fitness test. You have to score excellent in every category, whereas to get hired, you don't necessarily have to score excellent. There's a certain criteria now with you've got a 1.5 mile run, you've got push-ups, you've got sit-ups, you've got pull-ups, things like that. And you have to score a specific score on each one. I can't tell you what those are right now. It's changed over the years. I can just tell you that I have always been in the excellent, as well as the guys in the counter assault team have always been in excellent. They take their physical fitness extremely seriously.
Yeah.
And just this year, we had a contract with a company called In Extremis Performance, and that's the workouts that we were doing to provide several different workouts for those guys when they're on the road, they don't have any equipment, or they're at home during this COVID time, and they might not have anything but a couple of dumbbells, maybe a pull-up bar, some kettlebells, things like that, or if they can actually get to the gym. So if they go to work, we actually have a gym there. So they give 3 different type of workouts for the guys, and it's more than just workouts. It's physical training. So we're vested in the guys and keeping those guys uninjured, if you will. So there's about 50% of the injuries that come with law enforcement physical fitness have to do with just injuries that could be prevented, right?
Yeah.
And the stuff that we're doing has a lot of speed, agility, strength. It's all mixed together. And it's and if I can keep my guys healthy and on the job, then that gives them more time off and more time that they get in the game. When guys blow out a knee or something like that, they're extremely frustrated, because that's time that they have to be on the bench and heal, when they'd rather be working.
Sure. So what is the most challenging part, do you think, about what you do specifically?
Challenging about what I do. It's very hard to say because my commute. My commute's horrible. My commute's.
I mean, it's
pre-COVID
DC,
times.
so-
It was, it's an hour and a half, 2 hours every day each way. So I think that's the thing that's really aggravating. But other than that, it's not so much the challenging part of it. It's just the individuals that I work with are they're just a cut above, and they're all highly motivated, totally dedicated, and it's very easy to manage people that have that mentality. Type A personalities that just want to do a good job and want to be in the best physical and mental preparation state that they can be in for the job. So I think the hardest part of my job is to reel those guys back in. Sometimes they kind of, you just gotta pull them in a little bit and say, all right, look, let's just slow it down. We're going to do this. I get it, but we're not all going to have flying helicopters and aircraft carriers and all this other stuff. Or flying aircraft carriers, as we like to joke. But anyway, so we'll, that's probably the hardest, honestly, because those guys are just, they just love going to work.
Yeah.
So it's easy to manage people like that, and the supervisors I have are all, there's no discipline problems. It's just, they just love what they do.
That's awesome. And I think too, like, it's really telling that the most challenging part of your job is driving to work. Because I mean, it's, you guys protect a lot of really important people. And so to know that, internally, like, things are set and you guys are killing it, basically. That's awesome.
I think I mean, if I could change some things, obviously, I think I would add a lot more training. That's always been a complaint for us. The operational tempo, whether it's the president, vice president, or wherever, whoever that we're protecting, we just don't get enough training as much as we'd like to get. We have some outstanding training. Trust me, our special operations training section is fantastic. We have special agents out there that have done what we do. In fact, I used to work out there for a little bit. And then we have guys that are former law enforcement and former special operators from Army, Navy, whatever, that are instructors out there and specialize in things like CQB and individual element tactics, stuff like that we do. So I just wish we could have a little bit more. I thought when this COVID hit and nobody was traveling, things were going to be great.
Yeah.
But then training shut down. So we weren't traveling, but then we weren't training. So it was kind of, now we're back. We're full bore. We've got a class going on right now. We're in the 5th week of our 7-week basic course for the counter assault team. And then we're going to have another selection on after that. And then we're going to have another basic class. So we're getting back on track. And then as well as the guys that are working now, they're going out to training when they're not traveling. And we've got the campaign started. So we've got former Vice President Biden, who's now the Democratic nominee. We've got protection for him, so as well as the president and vice president. So we're tapped out right now, but it's good. The guys, nobody's complaining. Everybody's happy, and we'll see what happens in November.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So are things going to start to slow down in November, or do they continue to ramp up?
So it depends. I mean, if Vice President Biden wins, then we'll have a transition time where you've got basically two presidents, right? You've got a president-elect and a current president, and to have protection on both of them. So it gets a little tight. If President Trump gets reelected, things will kind of get back to normal, and then we'll, whatever normal is. I mean, it's always different with each president, right?
Sure. And so you said you'd like to make changes in terms of like training and things like that. Do you see that happening in the future where you guys will have more resources to do that, or is it a budgetary thing?
So we've been very fortunate this year. I can't talk about our numbers with our budget, but
Sure.
We've been very fortunate to receive a lot of extra funding, and we're able to replace some things, some gear that we have, life cycle replacement costs. So we're really at the point now where we're really in good shape for gear. uniforms, just weapons, and all the stuff that goes with weapons and stuff, body armor, all that stuff. We're in a great place. It's just a matter of having the personnel, having the numbers for the personnel, so we can then do more training and get out and
Sure.
do some outside training as well. There's a lot of different special operations unit, law enforcement units that we'd like to train with, but just right now it's tough. With number one with COVID, and then obviously the presidential election. But I think in January things will start to get back to normal, whoever's the president,
Right.
And we'll be able to start doing some of those things again, which is good.
And so you mentioned COVID a couple times. How has that really changed your role, and how is the Secret Service adapting to that?
Well, for me, it's great because I'm able to telework sometimes, so it's I don't
have
miss
to
that
go
commute,
through that
right?
commute, yep.
But and then we operate on having some teamwork meetings, like Zoom meetings or whatever, that we're able to do. So that's able to make things a little bit better for me. The difficult thing is to try to keep our teams separate from other individuals, like the guys over at the White House. We're doing, we call it a push when you have one team change or one shift change to the next shift. So the afternoon shift gets pushed by the midnight shift, right? So it's a change in that shift. We're doing a lot of that. It's a lot of virtual high fives at the White House. It's like, so you're kind of staying away from each other. Everybody's masked up, things like that. So I think that's kind of the tough part in trying to keep those within those teams, have those individuals, the same guys working every single day, so we're not intermixing
Right.
within the team, right? But that's the difficult thing right now is with the travel that's going on, we just can't do that anymore. So we're having to mix things up, and then if somebody goes out and they get exposed or they get actually get COVID. We've had a couple of guys get COVID. Then they have to self-monitor or self-quarantine or whatever the term is now.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's the hard part, I think.
Right.
But we're adapting, and everybody seems to be just doing the right thing. We really haven't had many guys get test positive, and those that have bounced right back.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been good.
Yeah. So how often does the Secret Service have to deal with threats, or what you can tell me?
Every single day.
Every day.
Every day.
Wow.
We have a division solely dedicated to protective intelligence. And by protective intelligence, I mean people who want to do harm, threats against the president, and they do every field office out there, every agent that's ever been out there in a field office, which is just about everybody, has done some sort of protective intelligence investigation.
So there's constantly, every single day, a threat against people that you're protecting or the White House.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the thing is the White House is it's a symbol, right? And it seems to be a gathering place for individuals who want to come, and they may be wanting to come and do harm. But it may be something simple as you have an individual, like I remember an individual came, and we call him a gate caller because he walks up to the gate and he does whatever. He said, and this individual said that he was the president's brother, and he wanted to come in and take a shower.
Oh, good.
Right. So obviously we didn't let him do that, and
You
we
didn't? Okay.
interviewed him to see if there was any, threatening stuff there, but there wasn't. So
Was it like, was he just joking around, or was he
no,
mentally?
yes, he had some mental issues.
Okay, because immediately when you said that, I was like, okay, it's either comedian or someone who has some stuff going on that you don't know about.
Right. I mean, there's a lot of. You take the shooting happened outside the White House the other day,
Right.
Right there at 17th Street in Pennsylvania. That individual said that he had a gun and threatened the officer. It's that kind of stuff that happens all the time. We'll have people that show up, and it could be something as an officer spots somebody with a gun, and they go over there, and it happens to be an off-duty police officer from somewhere else, another state or whatever,
Right.
and he just happened to come in. We've had that before, where guys come in and, well, they had holsters and they left all their stuff in the car because they knew they weren't supposed to have it.
Right.
And police officers, right? But you're leaving it in the car, and we've had other people that have come and have scouted out the White House, and where we've gone and picked up, and that's one of the things that I think that the Secret Service does really well. It's those social clues, if you will, that you can pick up and see people that stand out that just aren't right. Follow them back to their car, and you go and interview them. Hey, do you mind if we take a look at your car? Sure, absolutely. Go back and look at the car. They're from out of state, and they've got guns and other weapons and stuff in there.
Jeez.
That stuff happens all the time. And the uniform division is around the White House and the Vice President's house every single day.
Yeah.
And they come across that stuff as a matter of routine. Unfortunately, it's just the symbol of the White House for whatever reason, and whoever's in. It's not just this president or the last president or whatever.
Right.
It's all of the presidents. Just seems to draw those type of individuals out. So, and
Sure.
we have to go and we take every threat very seriously.
Yeah, I mean, as you should too. I think, from my perspective too, like the shooting that just happened on 17th Street, and they pulled the president out of a press conference.
Right.
For me, that was kind of like an in-depth look at what goes on behind closed doors with the Secret Service, because it's like, it was really interesting because he was giving a press conference. And so
Right.
normally if something like that happened and you guys pulled him out, we would never know. And I'm sure you guys have stuff like that happen often. But I think the press got to see, like, okay, there's a threat, and they neutralized it, and they get the president out, and then he's gone. And
Right.
he's safe.
And that was something that happened very close by to where he was. Obviously, you can see through the windows, right, where where that was, and that happened to be a good friend of mine that walked in, and I won't say his name, but is just a phenomenal individual, and I thought handled that extremely well.
He did.
And he just walked in and said, "Sir, we need to step out." And he didn't embarrass the president. Just they went and dealt with whatever they had to do with, and he was able to go back in a few minutes later and continue on with the brief as if nothing happened, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the part of our job. It's that political sensitivity that we have to deal with all the time. Right, we'd like to put him in a lead box and control the air and the water going in, right? And nobody can hurt him, right?
No one has access to
right.
the president.
But he's a politician, and he has to have that access to the press and the people, and that's where we have to. I think we do a very good job of a balance,
Sure.
if that. So
I mean, you have to. And I think the other interesting thing, too, about the Secret Service and the White House in particular is, living in D.C. for 4 years, every time I was at the White House, there was something going on.
Yeah.
I've been inside several times. There's always protesters outside. Again, doesn't matter
Right.
what administration. And I think that's also indicative of just like D.C. Like, there's always a protest. It's not always, it's not always rioting or whatever. Like, there's a lot of protests. I actually walked into one that it was a country, way over in the Middle East that had come to petition President Trump for some sort of support in supporting them from disbanding from the main country. And it was a weird, like, split country. And it was like, they were just all out there, like, eating hot dogs and chanting songs and having a good time. And I think that, to me, is like DC. Is like, there's always something going on. So you guys having to differentiate between threat or just normal DC, I think, is insane. Like, you guys have to be really well trained on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was I can tell you one story about when I was in the Joint Operations Center. I just got it promoted to go back to the President's detail. And one evening, and I forget exactly what the catalyst was, but there was something going on in the Middle East between the Palestinians and the Israelis. And they had two protests going on at the same time, and we saw them converging. And the
Like,
Israelis
oh my
happened.
God.
The Israeli protests happened to get there right outside on the north fence line, and they had flags and chanting and whatever. Like I said, I don't remember what the catalyst was.
Mm-hmm.
And then from the other side, you had people for the Palestinians, and they got right next to each other and were screaming and yelling at each other. And there was, you talk about the thin blue line, there was just a few uniformed division officers. No riots, no hat and bat gear, nothing like that, no riot gear or whatever. They just were regular uniformed division officers and that were standing in between. And that could have been extremely bad.
Yeah.
And to be that officer right there in the middle of that, holding that line between those two, luckily nothing ever happened, and they all went their separate ways and everything was fine. But I just can't imagine being a uniformed division officer, just being in the middle of that,
Being in that position that like you're in charge of trying to make sure that nothing happens, that the two people don't hurt each other.
Right. And then you look at the civil unrest we've had. I just come back from vacation on that one and went downtown, and it was insane. The stuff that people were throwing at us. You'd see a water bottle, it's yellow coming over and there's brown coming over, and you're kind of like, I wonder what that is.
And lemonade and chocolate milk.
Right. And then their pepper spray is that they were shooting at us, that kind of stuff. So it just, it was insane.
Yeah. And I think too, it's so interesting to me to see how the United States handles stuff like this. There was just a protest in some European country, I can't remember, but it was 100% peaceful protesting.
Belarus,
I believe.
Yeah.
And people playing guitars and singing and stuff like that, and the police were out in like more riot gear than I've seen in my entire life. And again, I lived in DC for 4 years,
right.
and they're all lined up and guns drawn and all that stuff, and it's just people singing. And then I look at what's happening here, and I'm like, I feel like our guys handle it like a lot better. And as much crap as our law enforcement probably get, it's like, to see that from a completely peaceful reaction, they have complete riot gear, guns drawn, everything's ready to go, and it's just some guy in a Speedo playing a guitar, right? Versus like over here where you guys are getting pepper sprayed and,
right.
and shots aren't being fired. I just think that that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's not fun.
I can't imagine it would be.
No.
But you guys also have training, and I'm sure you've been pepper sprayed before, and
yes, yeah.
Not that it excuses anything that
right.
happens to you guys, but I think from my perspective too, I'm glad that you guys have training that you can deal with that, and it's not immediately a threat that's like it's going to cause issues within the White House, or like, oh my God, like we're screwed. It's like, yep, seen it, dealt with it before.
Yeah, I just received a brand new gas mask.
Oh,
so
nice.
It was nice to see that it actually worked. Unfortunately, I got a big, huge whiff of it in my eyes. I could breathe, but my eyes were just shut. When I was a police officer, we first went to pepper spray as a non-lethal use of force, and to carry the pepper spray, you had to get shot with the pepper spray.
Yep.
And I had a lieutenant who sprayed me and missed. He hit me in the chest, and that was his miss, and he decided that he was going to get me in the face as well. Okay. So for 45 minutes, I just sat there with a sprinkler in my eyes, just trying to get everything out. It's just the worst. And I've been in a couple of fights where it's been deployed, and it just sucks. I was on the SWAT team, and we've used that to get people out of the house, and then you have to go in, so.
And then you're getting hit with it the same.
Right, and it works great.
Yeah.
Your gas mask works great, but back then we didn't talk about resources. We didn't have resources to get new filters. So after the second or third deployment, then it's just like, this isn't working, and you're going into a house that's full of pepper spray and CS and everything, and it's just like, I think we need new stuff. But
it's
anyway,
interesting
it's fun
too, yeah, because like I think two things. It's interesting because people carrying pepper spray has been a thing for a long time, and I actually one of my friends was having issues, and they felt like they needed to carry pepper spray, and I did a bunch of research on pepper spray, and obviously it's being deployed all over the place by both sides right now with everything going on. And I did some research and found pepper gel, which is, I'm sure you've heard of, and
it sticks.
I think I upgraded her to that. I think that's an upgrade, but to me that like made so much more sense. And for those who don't know, pepper gel is pepper spray, but in a gel. It's exactly what it sounds like, and it sticks to you, and there's not any blowback, which is a huge problem when you're trying to clear something. You get it's
right, or if you're in the back of a car fighting and you somebody deploys pepper spray, and yeah, definitely.
Have you guys like considered using that, or?
So the Secret Service does, and they use it, but for my position, we're not really into the counter assault team's not really into the civil defense function.
Sure.
Right? We're a light mobile assault force that's to divert, suppress, and neutralize an attack.
Yeah.
So we're not really there for the hats and bats, if you will.
Sure.
So if we have to deploy, it's a very bad day.
I can imagine. So switching gears a little bit, the Secret Service is also responsible for, I think, more than most people realize. You guys also handle all the counterfeiting and
Right.
everything like that.
Yep.
So talk to
Absolutely.
me about why the Secret Service does that and what goes into handling that.
So, no, you put on your history hat, 1865, April 14th, what happened?
Couldn't tell you.
1865, what happened?
Don't know.
Okay. 1865, there was a Civil War going on. Remember, it was right after that, right?
Yeah, that thing.
April 14th, Ford's Theater, President Lincoln was shot. The last official act before he went to the theater that night was to sign an executive order, or whatever they called it back then, to create the Secret Service. And it was to combat counterfeiting. Because counterfeiting back then was extremely rampant. I think there were like 8 major banks, plus some other minor banks, and everybody was printing their own money. And the currency throughout the United States was just, it was just, I can't give you the specifics or the numbers, but it was rampant.
Because it wasn't as high tech as it is today.
No, it's not as high tech. No,
Okay.
So they got some operatives, and they went out and started combating counterfeit. And it's a really interesting story. And I've read some of the old investigations and some of the vouchers that the guys would put in for traveling on the road and having to rent a horse and do all that other stuff. And it was just it's fascinating stuff. But it wasn't until 1902 that we picked up presidential protection, and it was after McKinley was shot in 1901. So which spurred that, and in 1902 we started doing. We'd had a dual mission. We've had a dual mission ever since. So every agent that starts his or her career is in a field office, and you investigate anything from counterfeit currency. It could be a protective intelligence, a threat against the president. It could be some sort of bank fraud. I know that there's some COVID fraud that's going on. That the
Really?
field offices, yes, the field offices are very busy right now trying to combat some of that fraud.
I would never expect that the Secret Service would be in charge of tracking that kind of stuff down.
Yep, they get they're very involved in that.
Is it like hospitals or?
I don't know. I'm not in the field office right now, but
Right.
the friends that I've talked to out there, they're saying that they're really big on it right now. And then as well, you do protection. Let's say that you're in Baltimore and the president comes to Baltimore, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to use some agents from that field office, from that district, to do the advance to match up with the president's detail,
Sure.
or the vice president's detail, or whatever. And so you could be doing some advance work, or like we had mentioned earlier, there's a foreign dignitary that comes into town, and you might be on a rotation to go be on the president of Turkmenistan, his detail or whatever.
Right.
I say that because I was on his detail and I got a yellow tie out of it. It was pretty funny.
Oh,
But
there you go.
stuff like that, and so you do a plethora of investigations and protection in your first field office, and then after a couple of years, then you go do your protection time. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, it changes a little bit. The career track changes a little bit every couple of years, especially with the needs of the president's detail and vice president's detail, depending if they need more or less. With President Obama, he had 2 daughters and a wife, and that was it. President Trump, he's got
Huge
his
family.
kid, huge family,
Yeah.
right? And so it fluctuates.
Sure.
When Vice President Biden was in, he had a pretty extensive family, so the president's detail wasn't as demanding as it was with the vice president's detail, and then it flips.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. So we've had several conversations kind of leading up to this interview, and one of the things that you told me was that on detail or on the job, you've eaten some pretty interesting things. What is the weirdest thing that you've ever eaten? And then I have some stuff to show to you.
Yeah, absolutely. The weirdest thing that I've ever eaten, well, it was two things, and it was at the same time, actually. It was the Secretary of Treasury, Paul O'Neill, under President Bush, went to a couple different countries, and one of them, I think, was Kyrgyzstan. And we happened to go to a farm collective, and he was inside talking to some people, and we were outside and with their Secret Service, if you will, and they opened up this van and popped this little table with a little tablecloth, and they had vodka and they had wine, and they were like, well, we can't do any of that, but they brought out all this food, and some of the food was I had dried horse.
Oh.
And then I had raw eel.
All right.
Yeah.
What which one did you like more?
I like the horse better. And
you like the horse?
Yeah, and I've been to South Africa, and we tried some different stuff down there. So it was tried some different stuff.
What kind of different stuff?
I think it was don't quote me on this, but I think it was Urdu or whatever that
Urdu.
Urdu, is that right?
It's it's like a gazelle.
Yeah, like a gazelle.
Okay.
Right. Yep.
Okay. I had much worse things.
Yeah, no. Some friends I didn't, but I've had friends that have had giraffe. Said it was very good.
Giraffe.
I don't
all
know.
right.
I don't think I'd want to eat giraffe, but
see, I would think that it'd be like really muscly, especially like that neck. Like you gotta, because that's a lot of weight to keep up.
I don't know. Depends on which cut it is, right?
That's weird. So I actually have some jerkies here.
All right.
That of course, I'd love for you to try. So
absolutely.
We're gonna
do you get to tell me what it is first?
Do you? Yeah. How do you?
I prefer if you tell me what it is.
You want to know what it is?
Yeah,
Okay. So this is some venison.
Okay.
That we're gonna try.
Love venison.
So we're starting off kind of easy.
Okay.
Some pieces over there. You don't have to eat all of it. I've never had venison. So
really?
Yeah. I've never been hunting. I want to go, but
never been hunting. Mm-hmm. All right, we'll have to fix that.
So to me, this just tastes like beef.
A lot of spices. Yeah, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay. Yeah. See, that tastes like cow to me. That doesn't taste.
Really?
Doesn't taste like anything else to me. What do you taste when you taste that?
I taste the spices.
Just the spices.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty strong.
That's a lot.
Let's try the next.
Good
one.
though.
All right, this next one it's pretty normal as well. This is elk.
Elk. I've had a lot of elk. I like elk.
Have you hunted elk?
I have not.
Where'd you have elk?
A friend of mine from college lived in Wyoming, and I asked him to send me some buffalo. So he sent me some buffalo along with a bunch of elk steaks. And I was like, dude, that was way too much. He's like, you have no idea how much meat is on an elk.
It's because they weigh like a couple 100 pounds.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we used to go to Jackson, Wyoming.
Okay.
When Vice President Cheney would go out there.
Nice.
So I spent a lot of time out there, and that's a beautiful place. And the elk are all over the place. It's gorgeous, gorgeous place.
Yeah, get a nice elk
Yep.
burger.
Mm-hmm.
This to me tastes. I'm definitely tasting like a more like deer taste to me. It's not. It doesn't taste the same as like the beef. I don't think.
No, but that's like a. That's not really jerky. That's like,
like a
that stick.
It's
like a Slim Jim
type.
or something. Yeah.
All right, now we're gonna start going off the trail a little bit. This is wild boar.
Wild boar. Oh, I've had wild boar. I love that. Mm.
Definitely different. But it's like kind of sweet.
It is. Very sweet. It's good.
It's interesting. So they're having huge issues with wild boar in like the South. Like they're ripping everything up.
Mm-hmm. I almost went hunting wild boar down there once. I got a friend in Virginia that hunts them.
Really?
Yeah. It is sweet. It is yeah. It's good.
Might be just the stick. I don't know. So now I can officially
I've had wild boar in Italy and Poland. Yeah.
It's got to be good in Italy. That's prosciutto, right? That's what they make prosciutto out of?
I don't know about that. I don't think so.
I'm like failing. I'm actually Italian, I swear, but
prosciutto's ham, I think.
Is it just normal ham or is it like a wild boar ham?
No, I think it's normal
ham.
ham.
Someone told me. I don't know who told me. Someone told me that prosciutto was wild boar. Okay, we're gonna get a little reptilian now.
Okay, I hate reptiles, by the way.
This is alligator.
Alligator. Oh, I've had alligator before.
So you've had everything before?
No, not everything.
It's very chewy.
A lot of gators in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
It is chewy.
That's where you were a cop, right?
Yep. 6.5 years down in Charleston.
So a lot of gator burgers down there.
A lot of gators down there. No, I don't. Nope. But they're all over the golf courses.
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
I kind of like that.
Yeah,
one. It was
not
a little,
bad.
It's a little weird.
Yeah, it tastes like chicken.
Know that you're doing that, but that it's a gator. And I've also worked with a lot of alligators, like because I've done a bunch of the
Yeah, aren't you into like the
stuff.
reptiles and everything?
Yeah, I mean,
And then you're eating
we
them?
got the gator
I know.
skull up there. I feel bad. Like he was
Yeah.
like watching me. He's like, "You're eating my cousin right now."
Right.
That's not really. All right. This is an ostrich.
Ooh, ostrich.
So have you had ostrich?
I don't know.
I think we found something that you haven't eaten yet.
A little dry.
It is dry. Like the alligator was really moist.
A little dry. It's good though. I don't know that I would go with that again.
No. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think it's kind of a weird animal to eat, but at least it's like a bird. Like you're eating this one. I struggle with this one. I've never had this. This is so you mentioned that you've never been to Australia. Guess what? We have some kangaroo.
Oh.
And it's kind of wet too. It's a
It
little
is a
weird.
little greasy.
There's paper towel up there if you need that.
Good. That's kangaroo.
Yeah, so I don't like that. So immediately what I'm tasting, it tastes like fish. Do you get that? Like a
Yeah.
rockfish.
Yeah. Some. Yep.
That's really weird.
Yeah.
You've never had kangaroo
Little
though?
kind. No.
Yeah, I don't
think I'd have that again. Nope. Nope.
Jinx, you owe me a tour of the White House.
Ooh, can't do that.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna keep working on it.
They're stopped with those. So because of,
They're totally done with them right now.
Yep.
Okay, so
Yep.
thank you so much for coming on. You've hopefully tried a couple animals that you've never eaten before. I mean, I can't top dried horse or giraffe, but at least now you've tried kangaroo. So
Yeah,
you can say that you've done that.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, and that is going to do it for my episode with Kurt Lewis, Secret Service agent. Thank you guys so much for listening. Again, your support makes it possible for me to do what I love to do, which is sitting right here, interviewing really cool people, and then giving that to you guys. So I really hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to listen to our other episodes, you can do that on our website. Gotta plug it. Chris and I spent a lot of time. We just revamped the whole thing. All of our episodes are there, as well as links, so you can go listen to them on any platform you want. It's super intuitive, user-friendly. It's really awesome, so please go check that out. And we made it super easy for you. It's at the same domain name, www.totspodcast.com. If you liked this episode, hated this episode, felt about this episode, want to be on the show, know somebody that should be on the show, please send me an email. I want to hear all that stuff. Give me all the feedback. Reach out to me for literally whatever. My email is marketwithben@gmail.com. Please send me your feedback. We would really like to know what you guys think of the show, and especially if you have an idea for a guest or you yourself wants to come on, please do send me an email. We will have you on if you're interesting enough. Guys, again, thank you so much. Please check us out on YouTube. If you listen to this episode, YouTube is going to be your best friend because it's so much more entertaining to watch these. Everything will be uploaded on YouTube just at the same time that all of the normal episode and audio and all that is uploaded. So please go check that out. Follow us on social media at TotsCast. I'm out of time. Thank you guys so much. I love you, and I'll see you next week.